The moment you divide the world into light and dark, you step out of love. Hey guys, it's John sitting here in the studio with my fabulous mug of John's Show coffee, the 6-bean blend. Today, I love the 6-bean blend. I wanted to talk about this concept of light and dark. You know, when someone starts talking in the form of light and dark, they automatically have created an enemy of dark. They've created a war, a battle between the forces of, light and darkness. This is more of a new age construct than an old age construct because, Judaism doesn't talk about the forces of light and dark. Christianity starts to create hell, which creates this concept. But even the constructs of Christianity that talk about the devil and hell came from a much later time period, not from Jeshua's time. And when you look at it from the idea of, we look at this battle between light and dark, understand that you're saying that I have to fight. I hear people use the term shadow work. Shadow work. That's one of the worst ideas I've ever thought of. Shadow work means that there's this darkness within me that is shadowed, and I have to get into that darkness and break free of that darkness. I understand the metaphor, but the danger is it creates a division not only in the world but within yourself. You're literally telling yourself that within you there are things that are out of control because they're dark. Jeshua's path was about unity, not sides. And dark and light is the ultimate fight. Now, if I was going to look at this from the concept of dark and light and look at it from my perspective, I would say that God is love and everything is love, and fear is the illusion of love's absence. And what people are terming as dark is actually just fear. But it's the illusion of love's absence, which means love is always there. The light is always there. You look outside on a cloudy day, it's cloudy and you don't see the sun, but above those clouds, the sun is always there. It is always there. And this idea of even the clouds help us appreciate the bright days. And I appreciate the clouds because I like the cooler days, and I like going out and on a misty day and walking in the woods and seeing the fog, and there are days like that I just love those days, right? It's a chosen perception of light and dark. We choose to believe in the battle of good and evil. And the reality for me is that God is love, and God is always present. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Yeah, because God is always there. The universe is always there. The love is always there. And the fears of the mind, there is nothing to fear but fear itself, right? In that construct of fear, we see darkness, but it's only fear. We can break free of the constructs of fear just by simply exhaling and shutting off the primal fear response, coming back to that loving state, looking at the world as information as opposed to stimulus to react to. This construct of us or them, thinking that the world is out to get us, or that there are evil forces and demonic entities that are out to get us, this has existed throughout a lot of history, but most of it comes out of the Middle Ages. Most of it is the idea coming out of Dante's Inferno and all of that. These are all medieval constructs, and you can always tell when the people who are really invested in it fight for it, because they call me a heretic or a blasphemer. Well, these are medieval words. These are medieval words that say, you don't believe the same as I do, so you're bad. You are darkness. I've been called a false prophet or a false teacher many times. Well, why is that? Because I'm not teaching what they have chosen to believe, so I must be dark. They've created a delineation and judgment to say I'm evil because I'm talking about love instead of the doctrines and dogmas of their ideologies. Most of those are using the term darkness or evil or any of those things to justify their judgment to feel right. to put themselves in a position of power over others. This concept brings us to fear and superiority as opposed to equality and love. Jeshua's radical inclusivity was that he loved his enemies. He talked to a Samaritan woman at the well. There were so many reasons that was wrong in that time period. And he crossed the cultural and religious lines. Love is not conditional on agreement. Love is simply love. And this construct that there's an agreement we have to make that you can only love in a certain way, that's not love, that's fear. And now, a quick word from our sponsor. Coffee Time with John. This channel runs off coffee, so get your coffee and tea at johnsjoe.com. And then there's this spiritual narcissism of seeing yourself as the light and others as dark. It creates arrogance. It creates this idea that I am better than you. I'm a light worker. I am a this, that, and the other thing. Those ideas literally separate yourself from the rest of the world. And rather than looking at somebody who might be doing something that you don't like and recognizing that they're doing it out of fear and then helping them alleviate their fear, you choose to believe they're simply dark and they're simply evil and they're possessed by demons and all that junk. And the reason you can put yourself in a position of saying they're possessed by demons, they are darkness, is because you've chosen to believe that you're the one who's light, rather than just being in the love and just loving someone. There is no dark or light. There's just love and fear, which is the illusion of love's absence. And when people get into the absence of love in their ideology, they start doing fearful things. And if you can alleviate their fear, you can stop the problems. There are spiritual communities all over this world that are saying that they're more awakened. I have a sign on my front door that literally says, if you're here to get me to join your cult, I won't. The Jehovah's Witness stopped coming to my door because they knew they were here to sway me because they are more awakened than I in their mind. I had another Jehovah's Witness when I was a young man in Rehoboth Beach on the boardwalk, walked right up to me and just started preaching. And in his preaching, he said, well, what do you do? And I said, I'm a comedy sword fighter. And he said, well, God doesn't want you to do that. I said, who are you to say that God wants me to do anything? And I said, I do what I love. I enjoy what I love. People love my show. They get a good feeling out of it. And you're telling me it's wrong to do it? Well, sword fighting, it's a comedy show. Well, yeah, there's sword fights in it, but that's a comedy show. Well, you shouldn't be doing that. Just then, my friend Chuck walked up, and I was getting a little annoyed at the moment. Now, I'm a little ornery. And my friend Chuck walks up, and I said, Chuck, I want to introduce you to somebody. This is Jesus Christ. And Chuck said, welcome back, which was great. Moving beyond the labels is about coming to understand that we're all equal. We're all one, and we can be loving to one another, even when they're doing fearful things. People are not good or evil. People are loving, and then they do things out of fear when they're not feeling the love. Everyone is capable of change. If you would just look at the world as people and look at it as a unity consciousness, why are they afraid? Well, 9 times out of 10, if you talk to somebody who in society who's afraid, it's because most of them are reacting to their environment, right? People dress tough and look mean because if they don't, they're a victim in their environment. You look at this idea of they're just afraid. And if I can be the one place that they don't have to be afraid, life is going to be fantastic. Before you judge on appearances, before you judge on actions, listen. Not to win the argument or to prove you're right or to put yourself in a position of authority. Listen to what they're saying and hear what they're afraid of. Look at the common humanity before you. There are differences. We all come from different places, different experiences in life. But when you act from compassion, even towards those that seem to be of an opposition, you give them the opportunity to feel love and to feel compassion and to be in the now. It's the only moment you live, right here, right now. And you can choose to be the light who judges the dark. You can choose to be the dark who judges the light, or you can choose to help one another and love one another and live into humanity. Love doesn't take sides. It transforms both. When you have caught yourself labeling someone instead of loving them, exhale. Let your own fear go. You're labeling them out of your own fears. Exhale and just listen. Listen to what they're saying. And when you come to that space of understanding that your present moment belief doesn't have a delineation of good or evil, it has an understanding of I am. Well, I am love. And I can look at that person in front of me out of love or fear, and judgment is always fear. Judge not, lest ye shall be judged. Judge not, lest you shall expose your fears. And that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.